Building upon the previous section's discussion of automatic termination, it is equally important for Arizona real estate professionals to understand how an agency relationship may end through acts or decisions of the parties themselves. Unlike automatic termination, which occurs by operation of law, these forms of termination arise from the behavior, choices, or relationship dynamics between the broker and the client. Under ARS Section 32,215(3), A3, and R4-28-802, and Commissioner's Rule R4-28-1101. The integrity of the agency relationship depends on mutual trust, communication, and adherence to fiduciary obligations. When that trust is compromised, or the purpose of the agency is no longer desired by one or both parties, the agency relationship may end through mutual termination, estrangement, breach of fiduciary duties, or abandonment. Mutual termination occurs when both the broker and the client agree to end the agency relationship voluntarily before its natural expiration or completion. In most cases, this agreement must be made in writing to prevent future disputes. Mutual termination is often used when circumstances change or when the relationship is no longer productive. For instance, a seller may decide to take their home off the market due to personal reasons, or a broker may agree to release the client to pursue representation elsewhere. This termination is generally considered amicable and does not carry disciplinary implications, provided that all trust funds, documents, and obligations are properly accounted for. Under ARS Section 32-215(1.01a, brokers are required to maintain accurate transaction records even after termination to ensure compliance with ADRE standards. For example, a seller and broker mutually agreed to cancel a listing after several months with no offers, allowing the seller to work with another agent. The broker ensures that all marketing materials are removed, earnest money is properly handled, and all parties sign a release. This is a textbook case of lawful and ethical mutual termination. Estrangement, on the other hand, refers to a gradual breakdown in the relationship between a broker and a client that makes continued representation impractical or impossible. Unlike mutual termination, estrangement is not necessarily agreed upon. It arises from conflict, lack of communication, or loss of trust. For instance, if a client begins ignoring the agent's calls, refuses to provide necessary documentation, or consistently disregards professional advice, the relationship may become strained to the point that effective representation cannot continue. Similarly, if the agent demonstrates unresponsiveness, the client may lose confidence in their ability to act competently. Although estrangement does not automatically terminate the agency, it often leads to a formal termination once one party notifies the other in writing. In Arizona, if a client terminates a broker due to estrangement, but later closes on a transaction initiated during the agency period, disputes may arise over commission. Entitlement courts will examine whether the broker was the procuring cause of the sale. The case Tway v. Payne, 1956, highlighted that a broker may still be entitled to a commission if their efforts directly led to the sale, even if the agency was later strained or terminated. The key takeaway is that communication and documentation protect both parties in cases of estrangement. Breach of fiduciary duties is a more serious form of termination, as it involves misconduct or violation of trust by either the broker or the client. A fiduciary relationship demands good faith, loyalty, full disclosure, and confidentiality and communication. When a broker violates these duties by misrepresenting information, acting in self-interest, or failing to disclose material facts, the client has just cause to terminate the agency immediately. Similarly, if a client misleads the broker or engages in unethical conduct, the broker may withdraw from representation under R4-28-1101A. A licensee must deal fairly and honestly with all parties. and failure to do so can result in disciplinary action under ARS Section 32-2153A3. For example, a buyer's agent secretly purchases a property that their client was interested in, using the information gained during their fiduciary relationship. This action violates both loyalty and disclosure obligations and constitutes a breach of fiduciary duty. The client may terminate the agency immediately and file a complaint with the Arizona Department of Real Estate. The ADRA could suspend or revoke the agent's license for dishonest and self-dealing conduct. Conversely, if a client insists on the agent participating in a fraudulent act, the agent must refuse and may terminate the relationship to avoid violating state law and professional ethics. Make sure that all records of communication are kept to support either side if this occurs. Abandonment occurs when a licensee effectively ends the agency relationship without notice by ceasing to perform their duties. This is one of the most serious forms of misconduct because it leaves the client without representation and undermines public trust. Abandonment can occur when a broker stops communicating with the client, fails to present offers, or simply disappears from the transaction without formal release or transfer. In such cases, the licensee may face disciplinary action for negligence and failure to exercise reasonable skill and care under R4-28-110I and ARS Section 32-2153.22. A practical example would be a property manager who stops responding to maintenance requests, fails to collect rent, and ignores the owner's communications. The owner, left unprotected, terminates the relationship and reports the conduct to the ADRE. The department may determine that the licensee's neglect constitutes unprofessional conduct and impose suspension or revocation. These four forms of termination: mutual termination, estrangement, breach, and abandonment, illustrate the spectrum of how agency can end through human behavior rather than legal operation. Mutual termination reflects professionalism and cooperation. Estrangement highlights the importance of communication. Breach of fiduciary duty warns against misconduct and conflicts of interest. Abandonment emphasizes accountability and the ethical duty to see a transaction through unless released. Review summary. Agency may end not only by operation of law, but also through the conduct of the broker or client. Mutual termination occurs by agreement and is lawful if properly documented. Estrangement arises when trust or communication breaks down, often leading to termination. Breach of fiduciary duties allows immediate termination when trust is violated, as governed by R4-28-1101A and ARS, Section 32-2153AA and ARS Section 32-2153.22. Abandonment, the most serious form, involves neglect or desertion of duties and can result in disciplinary action. The underlying theme is that ethical practice, communication, and documentation are key to managing the end of any agency relationship with professionalism. Discussion. Why is mutual termination considered the most professional way to end an agency? Answer. Because both parties agree to release each other from obligations, ensuring transparency and preventing future disputes. What is the primary difference between estrangement and breach of fiduciary duty? Answer. Estrangement results from a breakdown in communication or trust, while breach involves direct misconduct or violation of fiduciary responsibility. What disciplinary rule may apply if an agent abandons their client without notice? Answer. HAR 4-28-1101C, which requires agents to exercise reasonable skill and care in representing clients. Closing remarks. Ending an agency relationship is often as important as how it begins, whether through mutual agreement or misconduct. How a licensee handles termination reflects their integrity and professionalism. Arizona real estate law ensures that clients are protected when relationships fail but it also empowers ethical licensees to withdraw when their principles or legal obligations are compromised. Professional communication, honesty, and documentation safeguard all parties and uphold the reputation of Arizona's real estate industry.